Hey there, solo RPGers. Welcome back to Artichoke Dip, and thank you guys so much for engaging with the Facebook page. I'm seeing more and more people come in, and it's actually becoming kind of like a close-knit little community where everybody's talking and sharing gaming secrets and stuff like that, and it's great. It's really great, and I thank you very much. And for you new subscribers that have subscribed this week, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for being part of Artichoke Dip solo RPG and community here. So I've been researching and looking at the solo RPG topic online, and I've noticed there's a wealth of information. Not only me, but there's other YouTubers out there now that have started their own channels and explaining how to do solo RPG. So I think at this point, explaining, hey, this is how you do a solo RPG is going to be rather repetitive to a lot of people out there. So I've been going back through, looking at the comments and some questions people have had, and brainstorming and thinking of some videos that I can put out there to help you guys. And one of them that I came across, and it's a really, really good question, and it can be very confusing in the world that we live in now with the fact that buying online, especially gaming stuff, is very vague. Unlike being able of the old days where you could actually walk into a game shop and actually pick up the book and you could read, the introduction, the fluff about what you're reading, and then make a decision for yourself there whether, hey, I like this, I don't like this. Now, it's very vague. It gives you a brief description and it's hitting basically the highlights of that game system, and it sounds great. And I imagine, like many of you out there, and if you're into this hobby, you'll buy a book and you'll get through the fluff and you'll read it and you'll be like, oh, okay. And then it gets shelved and you kind of forget about it after that. And I think every gamer does that because element of that particular product, something just doesn't really spark your imagination like it would somebody else. So, what I want to talk about today, and I've had many people ask me this question, how do I use a pre published um, adventure module solo? Okay, so what we're going to discuss, what is the difference between if you're new to this and you're just now getting into it. For you older gamers out there, you're already familiar with this, you know what the difference is. But for the newer gamers just getting into this is going to help end a lot of confusion for you, especially if you're looking into buying new books. Now, I'm going to say, like I do on every single one of my videos, that I do not get paid. I'm not endorsing anybody. This is all my hard-earned money. And I'm not even telling you you have to buy this stuff. I'm just showing you examples of what I have accumulated over the years and to help break it down for you. So let's start with a published adventure. And I pulled a few examples out here to show you. And the first one we're going to talk about is The Cage of Delirium, right? I had picked this up a few years back, and it came with an audio CD, which I cannot play. We all know why that is. And to help with the adventure. Now, to a lot of you out there, a published adventure may seem very appealing because the work is all done. Here's the one thing you have to realize about any published adventure that you get. First of all, it's designed for the lazy DM and or game master, depending on what you're playing, because it is already made, and all they have to do is run their players through it. So it's not really designed for the player to go through. Two, these are designed with the mindset that there's going to be at least 4 players and 1 game master. Now, if you don't believe me on that, just look at any commercial, any gaming company puts out, and you'll notice that they always show at least 4 people sitting around a table playing this game. So the majority of these products that come out have in mind when they design them that there's going to be a minimum of 4 players and 1 game master. So to play that solo, to run through it by yourself, you can. I'm just going to tell you, you're going to die a lot. Or you're going to get so miserably bored with it that you're going to wind up setting it aside anyways. Now, does that mean you can't play these? Absolutely not. Now, I'm not a big fan of these pre-published ones. A couple I picked up that look cool, and I like some of the ideas out of it or the maps that I've used. But for most part, I tend to stay away from them. But if you would like to use these, I'm going to explain to you how for solo. So the first thing you have to understand about any published adventure that you get, you are gonna have to read through it. There's no way around it. And I know for a lot of people, they want that surprise element to be able to experience as they're going through it of each room. And now I'm not telling you have to read through the entire thing page by page, because you really don't. But you have to skim over this thing to get an idea. And if you don't, it would be like a director trying to direct a movie and having no idea what the script's even about. It's not going to work, and there's going to be a lot of confusion, and it's not going to make any sense. So the first thing I do is I go in there and I look at the encounters, and it will give you a list of every single encounter that's in this publication. Now, you're going to see that you're going to have to scale these things back, way back for solo. And you may even want to integrate your own encounters in there and take out maybe something that they put in. And the reason why I say that is you have to keep in mind, and I'm going to keep stressing this, with these, they're intended for, as the way they look at it, a minimum of 4 people playing out of this. So that's how they're going to set their encounters up. And in order to make it more fluent for the game master and keep it challenging for the players, that's the way they have to do that. But if you're doing it solo, that's going to be a bit much. So the first thing you want to do, go in there, and they're going to give you a list of your encounters. Go through your encounters and actually start looking at how many they put in there. And you're going to be really surprised at what you're going to be up against. So at that point, you're going to want to go in, edit all that, and knock it down to a playable level for your solo RPG. Now, another thing that you're going to find with a published adventure, and the reason why I say that you have to read through this, everything will be numbered in here 1 through however many encounters are. Now, some people may think, well, this is convenient, especially if you've never used these before. I just go from 1 to 2 to 3. No, that's not the way that it's set up. The way that it's set up is, just for this example, I'm going to show you the map. And as you can see, here's the 2nd floor, and then we go up into the 1st floor. Now, if you take a really good close look, number 1 is the main entryway. Now, if you were to go up the hall, or the corridor, however you want to say that, 2 doors, and at that point, you would be at 12. So, in order to play this, 1, 2, 3, 4, through that, you can see you're going to be ping-ponging around this map, which isn't going to make very much sense. So, to play a published adventure like that, that's what I mean. It's not going to make a whole lot of sense. You're going to wind up skipping over areas that were actually intended. I guess it's a good word to say, intended, because to a certain extent, a published adventure does kind of railroad your characters into that story narrative and to keep you on that story narrative. So, yeah, to a way, it does. Now, when you're playing solo RPG, when you're using one of these, you're have to going to go in and alter stuff. You're going to have to go in and alter the encounters. You're going to have to adjust them for the difficulty level that you're comfortable playing with, because after all, if you keep dying, it's not going to be fun. And you're going to have to use the map. And as you go into the map, how I personally, if I was to do this, and like I said, I'm not a big fan of these, I don't use these a lot, is I would go in and take the list of all the encounters, adjust them to the encounters that I want my characters to use, and then assign those to the rooms that they have in here. Then go through the map, and then room by room, you could read the description, whatever the traps, whatever they have put in there, and then you would have your encounter, which would make it probably a more enjoyable solo RPG. And this is one of them. Like I said, I picked up. It looked really cool in the game shop, and of course, it was sealed in cellophane to where you couldn't, look at it. And at the time, it was a really good price. So I said, "What the heck?" I picked it up, brought it home, opened it up, started reading through it. Now, the reason why I didn't like it is, you're going through this old mental hospital. And reading over it the way that they have it set up, it's kind of like modern gothic horror meets medieval fantasy. And maybe for some people they enjoy that. For me, it's just kind of, it feels too coupled. And I just never really had much of an interest. Now, the audio CD that they did provide in here, which is really cool. I use that a lot, and it's got some really cool sound effects on it and background tracks on it that I really enjoy to play while I'm doing my solo RPG. Now, eventually, will I play this? With that being said, yeah, probably I will get around to it. And I'm going to change a lot in it to actually make it to the way I want to play with my solo RPG. Now, I guess if I was running a actual game group, me DMing it, maybe it would be a little different because, like I said, these are set up for the game master and for him to sit back and be able to challenge the players. So, with that in mind, any pre-published game that you get like this, going into it, you have to realize that you're going to have to go in there and you're going to have to adjust some encounters. You're going to have to change stuff around to be able to make it work for you. And for most part, a lot of the surprise will be taken out of it because you're going to have to read it over. Which is why I've said in previous videos, the best way to do it if you're going to use them is read through them, understand them, and take what you like out of it. Because that's the way that these were published and the way these were intended to be used. So, this is a pre-published adventure. And if you're new to this, now you have a little bit of understanding of what you're dealing with. And if you're looking to purchase books, maybe this isn't what you want to purchase. Now, can you get some cool maps out of here? Can you get some cool information? Sure. And it'll give you great ideas. Any gaming material out there, I mean, the amount of research that they put into it, and what I mean by research is actually sitting down and playing through these and test gaming them and setting them up to be balanced before they actually publish them. Yeah. But for a solo RPGist, well, it might be a little bit more work than what you want to put into it. Which brings me to the second point. So, you have your pre-published adventures. And a lot of your pre-published adventures are a small dot on a map of a bigger setting. And you're just adventuring in this one smaller dot in this world. Now, for me, what I have used, and if you're going to purchase anything, For your game table, I like campaign settings. Campaign settings, and I mean they all come different, and some of them are pretty small, give you a great deal of information as far as new characters, new character classes, new races, new abilities um, that are detailed to that world. But it leaves it up to you to be able to actually design and set up that world to the way that you want to game in it, which gives you a whole lot more freedom. It's just giving you the tools to be able to do what you want to do with it. So that's why I personally like campaign settings better, and I think I only own, honestly, 3 published adventures. And I'm going to talk about those and explain what I like about them. I already showed you the first one, and well, you know about that. So this one is Spyro's Black, which is a setting in more of a darker, evil campaign setting world of dark magic and necromancy and stuff of that nature. It's pretty cool. I have thumbed through this. I've taken some ideas out of this, and that's why I say I like campaign settings, because of all the information that you get out of it for your games. Have I actually sat down and played straight out of this book everything that the way it was? No. And I probably never will, because it's not the way that I like to use them for my solo RPGs. You know, that's the thing about being a solo RPG is you get to do what you want to do, not deciding amongst a large group of people what they want to do. So this is a campaign setting as well, out of Castles and Crusades, Castle Zagate, which is a little bit larger, a lot more information, large map that goes with it, and a larger, more in-depth world, I should say, for you to actually build and make. And now, when I first got this set, and I had bought the original set that came with the player's manual, which they call your monster manual, and this, and the slip sleeve, and I used this a lot. I had a lot of fun with this, and I played it a lot, and every once in a while I do gravitate back to Castles and Crusades. And like any game system, like I said in my previous video, you know, I'll buy it and play it, until I kind of get to the point where it's like, it's the same old crackers now, and then I'll move on to something different. But this was, you know, a very excellent campaign setting, and I had a lot of fun with it. A lot of adventures in here, and I didn't even scratch the surface of it, you know. So, which is the reason why, if you notice, I keep getting back to why I like campaign settings over just published adventures. Now, another example of a published adventure would be this one, Ruins of the Dragon Lord. Now, this is one I had bought years back. Another one, I've only scratched the surface on it. I have used a lot out of here. I have played a lot out of this. This is a very, very large campaign setting. Kind of unique how it's set up, because it's set up, you can play the story dialogue the way they put it in there and try to solve the mystery of the missing Dragon Queen, or you can use it as just a campaign setting and as a vast open world to be able to go through an adventure. They give you all kinds of maps and just a large wealth of information. Now, I mean, looking at that, so they give you 3 rule books which to use. You know, the Path of Akaroth, Tales of Mount Mord, or Moru, I'm sorry, and the Dragon Stone. And so, and normally with a campaign this size, I don't think, honestly, any gamer I've ever talked to, anybody's actually ever literally finished one of these from start to finish and has went through every single square inch of that world and seen every single thing and done every single thing. You know, it's extremely vast. I mean, you're talking years. If this is all you played every day, you're talking years here. Um, Now, could you do it like that? Sure. Did the game developers set it up with that in mind? I highly doubt it. It's like, you know, the video games of today. Some of them are so vast. How many people do you talk to who never even actually beaten the game because they put however many endless hours into it, and then just they got to the point where they just kind of got bored with it and wanted to move on to another game and play something else. Same idea. Here, great wealth of information, a lot of stuff, and you know, I guess the way that I look at that is when it comes to spending your hard-earned money on buying any type of gaming material, you really can't go wrong with a campaign setting because it's one of those things that you can always go back to. You can always pull something out of, and you can constantly keep making a new adventure out of. Whereas if with a published adventure, you're in this, basically you're railroaded. You're only in this one map, and here's the story dialogue. That's it. Boom. Now, I'm not saying you couldn't go in there and reuse the map and put your own story to it and change stuff around, because you absolutely could. But you got to figure, if you're going to invest that amount of time into a published adventure, why wouldn't you just get a campaign setting? Because you're going to do the same thing anyways. The only difference is you're just going to have more resources at your fingertips to be able to draw from to create a larger, more expansive world. So now, and there's no end to campaign settings. I mean, if you look out there, let's just talk about a few campaign settings that are really popular. They're actually kind of old, but we see them everywhere now. I'm going to use D&D as an example. The Forgotten Realms, which came out in the 80s. It's huge. Just about everything you play that's online, except for the more recent that they have come out with. But Waterdeep, that's from the Forgotten Realms. And I mean, I could sit here and go on for the rest of this video about all these video games. I'm even talking about the older video games for PC that were based off of the Forgotten Realms. Just, they focused in on one area on the map and they made these expansive games out of it. And that's digital. I mean, we're not even talking about the actual real source books for you to where you could sit down and just keep constantly creating and building and then going on forever until... And if you're like me, what I like to do, because I will get bored with a certain campaign setting after a while, you get to the point to where you kind of want to move on and do something a little different. I do a lot of solo RPGing. I got a lot of game systems. I've talked about a lot of game systems. So with me, I'll make the characters, I'll play them, I'll keep the notes, and then when I'm like, okay, I kind of want to take a break from this for a while, I just leave the notes in the box with the characters, and then just go back to it, pick them up, and where I left off, and go back to playing. Or re-roll new characters and start fresh with something new. So, in my opinion, as a solo RPGist, campaign settings are way better for the solo RPGer than published adventures. And I know it can seem extremely almost convenient or alluring because you think the work's already done. No, as I just explained, you have a lot more work ahead of you in order to make it work for you. So, and you have an idea of a published adventure. I'll show you another one here that when 3rd edition first came out, I had picked it up. The Forge of Fury, which is designed for a first level character going in, helping you build up to 3rd level. I played this for a while. I had some fun from it, and using my miniatures and stuff, I did have some really, really cool um, encounters. I guess I would say encounters out of here that I played. But, just like I explained before with the published adventure, after a while, you just kind of realized, I'm sorry, that you're kind of railroaded into their story narrative. So I played it for quite a while actually. I think I put about a good month of time into this. Got about halfway through it, and then I just got bored with it and said, I'm just going to put it on the shelf and move on to something else. And which, getting back to explaining to you the reason why I don't buy published adventures, why I don't use them. Now, if you're a solo RPGist out there and these work for you, awesome. I am so happy for you, and that's awesome. But for me, they just don't work for me. So, now, you do have the occasional, and I'm talking about classics here. There were a few published. I don't think they intended them to be campaign settings when they made them. And I'm going way back to the old basic D&D stuff. And one of those that came out, and it was a module that was designed, but it was so vast, it actually turned into a campaign. And I have to say it's one of the only published adventures because it's more like a campaign setting than it actually is a published adventure. So why? That I love and I cherish, and that would be this one right here, Ravenloft, which is the original. And if you see, it even says, tell you, it's a game adventure. Well, for a game adventure, it's pretty vast. I mean, they give you your floor plans for this humongous castle, which is Castle Ravenloft, which I could burn up an entire video here just talking about Ravenloft. I'm not going to really do that, but... And then, of course, on the reverse side of the map, they show you Castle Ravenloft and the surrounding lands, which gives you all this area to be able to create what you want to create in it. So when this first came out, I don't think that's what their intention was behind it, but, it became a classic, and there is just... I have nothing but good to say about this. I love Ravenloft. I love this set. I love everything about it. Now, of course, there is the story dialogue that you get railroaded. Now, unfortunately, with Ravenloft, once you enter, your characters breathe this weird kind of mist. Now, once they breathe the mist, they can never go back out of that plane because they'll die. So once you come in, you are stuck. Your characters are stuck in Ravenloft. Now, of course, there are rumors of these artifacts that can possibly open up magical portals that will be able to transfer your characters back to their realm safely, but sadly it is not too many of them really find the artifacts they're looking for, and they're rumors. And as you learn more and more about the Ravenloft actual campaign setting, you learn that once you come into Ravenloft, you never leave. You will perish there, or you just become one of the evil undead in Strahd's army. So, yeah, I love it. I love it. So I would have to say this is one of the really the only published game adventure that I really, really enjoy. There is another one out there, and it's so expensive. I mean, it's out of my scope, and I have been trying to get my hands on it, and that would be the Temple of Elemental Evil. Now, I just can't seem to part with, you know, $70 for an extremely tore up, poor condition copy of this without the maps. I mean, we're not talking about maps. I mean, if you want a pristine copy with maps and everything, the price is astronomical. But it's an extremely old. A lot of people loved it because it was so vast. It was so open. Now, I've never actually owned the book, but talking to other people who have gamed out of it, they said it's such a huge setting that, you know, that's why the price is so high, and that's why so many people are still seeking out to find this game, because just of that. And which gets me back to my argument of what is better, the published adventure or the campaign setting. Me, I personally think the campaign setting. So, and I was doing some research, and I was looking online, like I said, at some of the older solo RPGers out there, and listening to what they had to say. And, you know, where they'll say, you don't have to spend money, you don't have to spend all this money, you don't have to spend all this money. That's very true, but at one point you have to realize in any hobby that you're in, unless you're collecting dirt, you're gonna put money into your hobby. It's just, that's why they call it a hobby. And so what I'm trying to help you guys with here, especially if you're new, before you point and click and purchase something that you get and spend your money and find out, I really don't like this, how to make a better, more well-informed decision and buy something that you may get years upon years of use and fun out of. So, the other thing that we'll talk about now, supplements. So you got your published adventures, you got your campaign settings. Now with every campaign setting, they'll come out with these supplements. And of course, they're just set up for a way to make more money and to get you to buy. Now, a word of caution with that, any RPG system that you play, you got to remember, guys, this is a product of our imagination. I mean, this is just, we're making up a story and we're playing our characters in it. So, a lot of it, just use your imagination, create yourself, is all you have to do. Now, there are some supplements out there that are really, really good to have. And they can be used for so many different scenarios, I guess, what I'm looking at, that you can actually use them for. One of them being that I had picked up, and to be honest with you, I was kind of lured in by the cover of this. And it was a used copy. It, you know, paid a couple bucks for it. And, but when I picked it up, I'm glad I did, because it was such a good resource. And it really helped, as a solo RPGer, how to use these encounters more effectively. And, it really put more depth into my game. And this one is called The Lords of Darkness. And this is a first edition Forgotten Realms campaign supplement. And it gives you a large wealth of information in here. Everything you would want to know about skeletons, ghouls and ghasts, wights, shadows, mummies, vampires, ghosts, specters, liches, and even goes into the Lords of Darkness. And so for me, this is a great wealth of information. Got a lot of cool stuff out of it. Expanded on this a lot, used it a lot, and it gives you brief examples. It goes through and it'll show you how they would suggest that you use them encounters in a game. So it'll give you a quick little adventure to run through to get the idea of it. Which is, you know, that is cool. I mean, it really helps you. But as a solo RPGer, it also gives you a different perspective on when you even do play solo RPG, how you need to set up your counters and actually run them to have a more memorable game. And that's what these do. Now, am I telling you to run out and buy a whole bunch of supplements? Absolutely not. The good thing about a supplement is you can pick it up in some game systems, and it gives you a brief snapshot of that specific area or encounters in that campaign setting, and that can be at that point used in other game systems. And like I said before, you just got to remember when you take them encounters, even if I'm going to use an example, an orc. So if I was using a second edition monster manual with a third edition game system, right? And I use the orc. Well, there's going to be changes that are going to have to be made, but the orc is the orc. It's still the same encounter. Everything about it is the same. And with a lot of game systems out there, and that the way that they set up their encounters, it's like that. There's minimum change that you actually have to do in order to adapt them and make them work for your solo RPG. So, supplements, they are good. Is it something I would spend a high dollar on? No. Not unless you're really, really into that particular genre of game system, and you want to explore that a little bit further, then you may want to invest the money into that. But if you already have your encounters and you already have the description and what they do and everything, then the only thing this does is it just teaches you how to use them more effectively. But it all gets back to, this is all our imagination, right? So the most effective way to use them is up here. Now, I hope, and what I mean by this is I've read a lot of the comments and a lot of people have asked me about, with published adventures, hey, how do I use this solo? How do I use this solo? How do I use this solo? So it's the reason why I did this video, and I've been thinking about it for a while, and really been, okay, how do I present this? How do I explain to you the pitfalls of a pre-published adventure? And just to recap and explain to you again, gotta understand it's got a story narrative, and it's going to try to railroad you to keep you on that story. The encounters are going to be set up for at least a party of 4 players and 1 game master, and the way that the game book is set up is for the game master, not the player. So I'm hoping I answered some questions out there, and going into this, if you guys do pick it up, understand that you are going to have to read through it and alter it for your solo RPG, which for many of you, that may take a lot of the fun out of it. And if you're sitting back watching this and thinking, well, if I got to go through it and read it first and then change all this stuff, is it really going to be that much fun? Well, then you should ask yourself the question, should I spend my hard-earned money on this if I'm not going to have fun with it? Maybe you'd be further ahead to just grab a campaign setting, open it up, have the template laid out in front of you, because you're going to have to create it anyways. So if you're going to create something, why not create something that you're really going to enjoy to use? Just saying. And with that being said, this is my opinion, and it's only my opinion, and it's all up to you, the solo RPG. And at the end of the day, it's about having fun, guys. That's what we're after, is fun. So if you enjoy using pre-published adventures and you have fun with them, that's all that matters, guys. If you're like me and you're going to want to explore something different, which for me, I love the campaign settings. So what I did pick up, and I read through the fluff, I guess you could say, this morning over my morning coffee, and a couple of my subscribers and my friends has recommended to me. So I decided to purchase one and pick it up, and I'm going to play it a little today, probably later on today. And this is called Fablelands. Now, this is truly a 100% solo RPG experience. You go through here, you choose a character, because it gives you a character template to choose from. You choose that character, and it's just using two-sided die, two-sided, six-sided die. I'm sorry, guys. I don't think I've had enough coffee yet this morning. And you read through and make your decision. Now, like I said, I haven't played through it yet. I just got done reading the introduction and the how-to with the character, which is extremely simple how to do. And then you go through and you read the section, and if you defeat the encounter, you turn to this page. If you're defeated, well, then at that point, you're defeated, and you start a new character. And you start back over at square one. So I'm going to play through this and see how it turns out. Now, this is a good example of what I was talking about if a pre-published adventure. So it's all contained in this book, and it gives you, from what I read, a lot of options and a lot of areas that you can explore, kind of giving, some freedom, but at the end of the day, you're still following the story narrative that you wrote it on, because it's telling you, hey, you defeated this, turn to this page, you defeated this, turn to this page. Whereas with the way that I like to play, I get out my campaign setting, I choose my game system, whether it be, D&D, Castles and Crusades, Palladium Fantasy, Pathfinder, so on and so forth. And I use that. So it's way more open-ended as to the way that I play, and I prefer to play. Now, my friends that I've talked to, they rave about it, and they said, man, you got to check this out. So I'm going to check it out, and I'm going to play through it. And I'll let you know how that goes. And, of course, like I said, sometimes I stress myself a little too thin when it comes to games, because I'll have multiple games going on at once. And so I kind of have to change the way I do that and kind of keep it down to maybe 2 games, and then it'd probably be more manageable. But yeah, who am I kidding? I've never been that way. Anyways, I'm hoping this helps, guys. I'm hoping this helps with some of the confusion. And like I said, this video is more or less if you're new to RPG and you're kind of confused when you look at the descriptions, what is the difference between published adventure, campaign module, supplement? And that's all it is. And to recap real quick, if I had my choice, my opinion, I would purchase the campaign setting and use the campaign setting, because you're going to get a whole lot more out of it than you are a published adventure. And just for the sake of an argument, published adventure, once you finished it, you finished it. You went through that adventure. You know everything about it now. So there's really no surprises when you go back through. There may be a few things you forgot that may be cool to re-explore again, but it's like reading a book. Once you've read the book, you've read the book. You can go back through it, and you may come across a chapter, maybe there's some things you may have forgot, but your memory banks will bring them right back up. Whereas with a campaign setting, well, you're pretty much given a world to go and adventure in and create, and it's up to you. So that is my argument on the difference between what is better, how do you use it. And if you're new to solo RPGing and you're a new subscriber and you're getting into this, please go back, check out the first introduction videos. I'll go through that and I explain everything in great detail on solo RPG. And as I said in my last video, you have to be careful with this hobby. This hobby has a tendency to make you spend money. Spend money, you get this itch that you constantly want to scratch. And just a word of caution on that. I'm not going to go really off on it too much. I made my last video, I talked about that and kind of the pitfalls with it. And you just have to realize when it comes to tabletop RPGs, they are products of your imagination. So if you're getting to a point with an RPG where it's feeling kind of stagnant, try changing a few things up before you go out and you buy a whole new system expecting to get that fresh feeling out of it again. Maybe what's going on with it is maybe you're losing direction in the way that the storyline's going, which maybe, as I said, how I use mine is you got to have a good antagonist in your storyline. It's got to come back and forth every now and then, stir things back up, and get you back on that storyline. And one other thing that, oh geez, I forgot to say this before I leave. So for those of you out there, today is the 4th, so happy 4th of July. So one thing I was sitting here and I was thinking about that I wanted to talk about, and I actually want to make more of a video on it, but I just wanted to get it out there to talk about it. And that was playing solo, time restraints. Now, some people, I guess, depending, could sit down and perhaps play 8-9 hours on end and be completely satisfied. Me, I normally give myself a time restraint of 1 hour. I'll play a 1 hour session. Now, I maybe do 2 or 3 hours throughout the day, but I'll play an hour and then I'll take a break and I'll go back to it and I'll play another hour. And with a campaign setting and, of course, dungeon design. And one of the things that can happen there is, and I have actually met other gamers like this to where, you know, they get out the thick pad of graph paper and, you know, this is where we come in, and then all the way towards the back, this is where the main encounter is, and you're just like, okay, So what you're telling me is my character goes in at the age of, I don't know, 18, and by the time we get to the main character, I'm 75 and getting ready to draw Social Security? Right. So, with that being said, I noticed one of those things that I've never really talked about that I, wanted to bring up was using a 10-sided die. And when it comes to dungeons and dungeon encounters, rolling it and the number that you use, limiting yourself for that game session of how many rooms you have to explore. Some people may not like that because they may want to just let the story take them where it takes them without time constraints. For me, what I notice, what I like, is having a time constraint, because when you end, just like I explained with my Necromancer, it ends on a cliffhanger. So once you get back into it, you get that rush of excitement of gaming to jump back into it rather than um, going back into another room filled with 20 skeletons, slay the skeletons, grab the treasure, go to the next room, slay another 10 skeletons, grab the treasure. That is not my style of RPG, and it's kind of more and less boring. And I was given an invite one time to play Pathfinder, and it was with a large group of people. And I accepted, and on a Saturday afternoon, went and played. And that's the way that the Game Master ran it. And it was to the point that I got so bored because it was nothing more than constantly rolling dice, rolling dice, rolling dice, rolling dice, rolling dice, rolling dice. That's what I call roll, ROLL playing versus roll, ROLE playing. And role playing, which is like the fantastic picture or movie we see in our mind as our characters are developing and moving on through this world that you've created. So I roll the 10-sider, and when I do a dungeon encounter, or perhaps it's in a city, if you're going through a guild, what have you, how many rooms? And in doing that, you can actually put more into that, more suspense, more perhaps traps. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm having a hard time talking today. More traps, more story, and get more out of it. And um, that's one of the things that I really, really enjoy about being a solo RPGist, is the fact that I can do my hobby the way that I want to, that I can really enjoy it. I like my stuff to be extremely immersed, story immersed. I love that. Now there's people out there that love the ROLL way of playing. They just constantly look through, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you're that type of player, keep playing. Game on, my friend. Have fun. I'm not. So by limiting yourself on the amount of encounters you have per game session, you could be more immersed into that world. And I hope that makes sense. I know I'm rambling right now, and I think I'm going to make a video to go a little bit more deeper into explaining this. I just have to sit back and think of how I'm going to properly convey it to you guys. And, but I think it's time I wind this video down for the day. But I want to just reiterate on the differences between the published adventure and some of the pitfalls with those compared to a campaign setting, compared to buying a campaign setting supplement, and what the differences are. I hope with some of you that had your questions out there, hey, how do I use this? How do I do this? It's really helped answer some of your questions and maybe give you a different perspective on, if you're going to spend your money, where would your money be well spent? And like I said, published adventures, going to have to change stuff. You're going to have to alter it to make it work for you as a solo RPGist. So in a sense, you're kind of doing half the work of what you would do with a campaign setting. Campaign setting, you get large world to play in, a large wealth of information to help you do that, to create and build and do everything you need to do with inside that world. So, and unlimited amount of replayability, because let's face it, it's a campaign setting. It's just giving you, this is the world, this is giving you a brief outline of what you can expect to see in it. Now you create it. Supplements help you with the encounters in that world, help you how to run them more efficiently within that world. Give you some examples, give you some backstory, some ideas to help make your game a little bit more story rich. I hope this helps you guys. And for you guys out there, have a happy and safe 4th of July. I hope it's a good one. I know it kind of stinks because it's not on a Monday or a Friday, which would make a great weekend. It's in the middle of the week, so... But, anyways, guys, happy 4D July. There we go. Happy 4D July. Alright, guys, I think I'm going to end this video now and sit down and think about what I'm going to make next. More game. More miniatures. Or create terrain. Or jump on Amazon and see if they came out with any new gaming material. Alright, guys, I will talk to you later. And for you guys out there, bottom of my heart, thank you for being subscribers. Thank you for joining the Artichoke Page Dip on Facebook. I am so sorry I'm having a hard time talking today. And thank you guys for all the support. And that's what really makes me want to keep making these videos and keep going along. And thank you so much. And to all you solo RPG enthusiasts out there, game on, my friends. Have a great holiday. And even if you're not in the US of A and you're outside the country watching this, well, happy 4th of July. Game on. Have a great day. And I will see you on my next video.